Hello everyone, a very good morning to all of you. Today we are going to have the third video of the same chapter, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can Be All Together. Now this is the third video, but the second part of the story, because in the first part I have created two videos, right. So let's go into the details again and see that whether the family ultimately survived or not. So in the previous videos we got to know about the different kinds of techniques and methods that the protagonist is taking in order to save the entire family and the crew members. And in this video we will get to know that whether the plans that they ultimately made, whether it is worked or not, right. So without wasting any time, let's go into the text. So I am reading from page 15, part 2, video number 3. By morning on January 3, the pumps had the water level sufficiently under control for us to take 2 hours rest in rotation. So somehow they have managed the entire boat so that they can also take rest while they are using the pumps in order to throw the water outside of the boat. So there is a kind of resting time also. But we still had a tremendous leak somewhere below the water line, and on checking I found that nearly all the boat's main reef frames were smashed down to the keel. But the condition of the boat is not at all good. We can clearly see it. In fact, there was nothing holding up a whole section of the starboard hull except a few cupboard partitions. So you can see that the entire boat, means if this going to continue, then they will not be able to survive, because the condition of the boat is pathetic. We had survived for 15 hours since the wave hit. So very important for short questions. 15 hours they have survived. But wave walker would not hold together long enough for us to reach Australia. I checked our charts and calculated that there were 2 small islands a few hundred kilometers to the east. One of them is Isle Amsterdam, was a French scientific base. Now the protagonist is changing the plan, because if we are going to continue like this, then this boat is not having the capability to take us to Australia. We will die. So now he is planning a different thing. What he is searching that, and ultimately he searched and checked that he saw that there are 2 islands a few hundred kilometers to the east, and this is the name, and this is also a scientific, was French scientific base, right. Means the French ultimately had a kind of setup for scientific experimentation over there. Our only hope was to reach these pinpricks in the vast ocean. Now there is the only hope that if we are getting these islands, we can survive. Now what is the meaning of this phrase, pinpricks in the vast ocean? Means the completely insignificant thing in the vast ocean, completely small things if we compare it to the vast ocean. But then also डूबते को तिनके का सहारा. So if we are getting this island, we will be saved. But unless the wind and the seas abated so we could hoist sail, our chances would be slim indeed. The great wave had put our auxiliary engine out of action. But there are some conditions. If these conditions are going to apply, if we are going to apply these conditions, and if the nature is in favor of us, then only we can be saved, because the great wave ultimately put the secondary engine also out of action. It is also not working. Now the next day, on January 4, after 36 hours of continuous pumping, we reached the last few centimeters of water. Now we had only to keep pace with the water still coming in. We could not set any sail on the main mast. Pressure on the rigging would simply pull the damaged section of the hull apart. So we hoisted the storm jib and headed for where I thought the 2 islands were. Mary found some corned beef and cracker biscuits, and we ate our first meal in almost 2 days. So he again planning those kind of techniques, and after that Mary, the wife, ultimately got some food and they are eating. After 2 days the first meal. But our respite was short-lived. Respite means the resting time. Means they were for on the January 4 after 36 hours there is a kind of weather which is favorable, but that is also not lasting for long. Our respite, the resting time, that tension free time was not long, it was short lived. At 4 p.m. black clouds began building up behind us. Within the hour the wind was back to 40 knots and the seas were getting higher. The weather continued to deteriorate throughout the night, and by dawn on January 5 our situation was again desperate. Means again the situation is pathetic, desperate. When I went in to comfort the children, John asked, "Daddy, are you going to die?" I tried to assure him that we could make it. "But Daddy," he went on, "we are not afraid of dying if we can all be together, you and Mummy, Sue and I." So you can see that this is the title of the prose. We are not afraid of dying if we can all be together. So if the question is coming in the final exam that who said the, means based on which line the prose is having the title and who ultimately uttered those sentences. So it was John, right? And there was a kind of conversation between the father and the son. That time he said that we are not afraid of dying. So it was uttered by the kid. I could find no words with which to respond, but I left the children's cabin, determined to fight the sea with everything I had. To protect the weakened starboard side, I decided to heave to, with the undamaged port hull facing the oncoming waves, using an improvised sea anchor of heavy nylon rope and 222-liter plastic barrel of paraffin. So there is nothing to understand. He is again taking different kinds of techniques. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt the end was very near, and there is a kind of emotional relationship definitely between the husband and the wife. They are holding each other hands and they are feeling that we are going to die. Probably this is the last moment that we can share our love. But Wavewalker rode out the storm, and by the morning of January 6, with the wind easing, I tried to get a head reading on the sextant. But somehow, by God's grace, Wavewalker, the boat ultimately overcame the storm. Rode out means it ultimately passed the storm, survived, and we are still alive. And the date is now January 6, and now he is trying to, again calculating on the sextant, on the machine. Back in the chart room, I worked on wind speeds, changes of course, drift and current in an effort to calculate our position. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers, means 1,50,000 kilometers of ocean, looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. So this was the location. While I was thinking, Sue, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very swollen, and her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. She gave me a card she had made, and we know that this daughter, she was having a pain because of the heat of the wave and all the storms that night. Now she ultimately made a card for her father, and she ultimately came. On the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people, did they make you laugh?" I laughed a lot as well. On the outside of the card, front side, there are the caricatures and some messages are there inside the card. See, inside was a message. "Oh, how I love you both. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it." So this is a kind of inspiration, a kind of motivational note from the daughter to the father, that yes, I do love you, and I want to thank you for all the techniques that you are taking, and I know that you are going to win. I know that we have to do it. So this is a kind of motivation for the father, right? So in this part, means second part of the story, video number 3, we got to know about the different kinds of techniques and survival plannings from the father, and how he ultimately saved the family till now. Till now they ultimately are saved, and it is starting from January 3. So remember, from January 3 we are getting January 4, then we are getting January 6, right? They got their first mail after 2 days, right? So, and we are getting also January 5. So 4 dates we are getting in this particular part, and ultimately the message of the daughter, that I know that you are going to save us. So emotional and motivational message from the daughter. So let's see in the next video, the last video, means video number 4, part number 3, that whether the father ultimately saved the family or not, right? Thank you, and read the text again and again.